Good morning. Welcome to your program agenda. And I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us today, August 24, 2023. It's a Thursday. And from the looks of it, we have patches of rain and maybe later in the day, patches of sunlight. However, the weather goes, I do hope you are all doing well, healthy, fine, and staying dry. Welcome to the program where we are going to be talking about the state of confusion. Hindi po ball of confusion for those of you who are Motown babies who used to love the soul music. We don't have a ball of confusion, maraming bola-bola, pero we have state of confusion in the state of Philippine agriculture. And while many of you are still at ease, confident that we are able to buy rice in the kanto, well, that rice may get more expensive in the coming months. But the experts or the authorities say it is going to be all right because we will be having a harvest soon. Okay, so today let's get on with the program by saying thank you. Thank you to all of you who watch Agenda via Cignal TV or Facebook or YouTube or the Cignal Play app. Maraming salamat po sa inyong mga subscribers of Cignal TV and of course to PLDT for their home fiber optic internet. Now, let's go to our daily starter for today. And this is important. I've had times when this was mentioned to me. I have had times when some people annoyed me. But anyway, it is from Michelangelo Bonarotti, okay? Michelangelo Bonarotti said, "The danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark." Okay, now you will be saying, hindi naman, maybe doesn't apply to me. Well, the Filipino custom of saying, pwede na yan, pwede na. That is a classic example of what Bonarotti was talking about. Pwede na is exactly the equivalent of setting your goals too low so that you can actually achieve it. Kumbaga, na-accomplish mo na. Kahit na yung ginawa mo or what you are doing is half-hearted, half-assed, mediocre, or didn't take a lot of effort, you just check it or chalk it off as okay or pwede na. So please bear in mind, it is not a problem, it is not a sin to aim high and land low. The sin is when you aim low and you go lower. Okay, let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And today, August 24, 2023, the headline of the Philippine Star is, "Duterte did not promise to remove ship from Ayungin." Rodrigo Duterte may have flown to China 5 times, whether for state or working visits during his presidency from 2016 to 2022, but he never committed to remove the BRP Sierra Madre from Ayungin Shoal to the West Philippine Sea, according to one of his closest aides. He never did it because he knows that it is a symbol of our sovereignty. He never joked about it as far as I can remember. Former Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea told the Star yesterday, referring to Duterte. Okay, yan po yung sabi nga ni second-hand information from a friend. It would do well for the former president to categorically make the statement or say it himself para tapos na yan. But just as an editorial note, it is ironic that several presidents of the Philippines are now clearing themselves of that issue when it is really not an issue because it is the Chinese side making the claims. If their claims were true, labas nila yung dokumento. But as far as Filipinos are concerned, and our officials, former and present, hello, pinatulan nyo? Sabi nga, pag pumatol ka sa siraulo, mas masahol ka pa sa siraulo. Editorial finish. Okay, let's go to the the header of the Philippine Star, Abby Binay. Running for Taguig Mayor is an option. Yan ang sinasabi natin. Ito, politika na, okay? Makati Mayor Abigail ba ito? Abby Binay has been quoted as saying that running for Taguig Mayor is an option. Tingnan na lang natin yan. It could be a legal question, etc., whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all politics now. Below the header, we have Chinese ships blocked Philippine boats on resupply mission. Reporting from the BRP Cabra, as a U.S. military surveillance plane circled overhead, 8 Chinese ships chased and briefly blocked 4 Philippine boats on a resupply mission to a tiny garrison in the hotly contested South China Sea. The high seas cat and mouse game on Tuesday followed assurances from Chinese Coast Guard vessels patrolling waters that Philippine boats would be allowed to deliver the provision to the remote outpost in the Ayungin Shoal. Quote, in the spirit of humanism. Ayan po. Pero in reality, ayun, kitang-kita sa mga lumalabas na video and photos na hinaharang talaga tayo. Meanwhile, stakeholders support June school opening. Ayan na. Para tayong palitaw, lulubog, lilitaw. Stakeholders are supportive of returning the opening of classes to June, saying teachers and learners can endure monsoon rain much better than the heat of the dry season inside the classroom, according to Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. There is an overwhelming support from the public. I think it goes without saying that we should go back to the original school opening. So, ayun po, debate na naman yan, gulo-gulo na naman yan. Meanwhile, Ople, a great friend, amazing mother. Migrant Worker Secretary Susan Toots Ople, Ople's daughter, says she has lost not only an amazing mother but also a great friend with her passing. Yun po ang totoo. That is so true. We lost a national treasure, a dedicated public servant in the person of Secretary Susan Toots Ople, who was so devoted to the plight of OFWs and migrant workers. That photo there is a photo of President Marcos and Lisa Araneta Marcos as they arrived at the Heritage Memorial Park in Taguig to pay their respects to the late Migrant Worker Secretary Susan Ople last night. Meanwhile, our topic for today, eto po, pinag-uusapan pa rin sa dyaryo, 20 pesos per kilo rice still possible according to the NEDA chief. Bringing down the price of rice to 20 pesos per kilo remains possible within President Marcos's term, but the country's agriculture sector has a lot of catching up to do to achieve that goal according to NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan. Ang sagot sa iyo ng mga farmers and agriculture sector, lagi na lang kami ang may kasalanan. Okay. Meanwhile, COA flags MWSS for overbilling Maynilad and Manila Water. Ito po, medyo baka malito kayo, ma-mislead kayo. The Commission on Audit, COA, has flagged the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewage System for overbilling concessionaires Manila Water and Maynilad Water in the last 4 years, amounting to 845.71 million for the Kaliwa Dam project. But, okay, according naman po sa spokesperson ng MWSS, pinag-usapan it was done with consultation because ultimately it would be the business of both concessionaires that would benefit. We will try to get the spokesperson and the players regarding that issue kasi nung pinapakinggan ko po kahapon at binabasa ko, medyo sabi ko hilaw yung balita na nilabas ng COA report. Okay. Meanwhile, bottom part of the paper, you have that photo of Toyota Motor Corporation Chairman Akio Toyoda, also known as Master Drive Moritzo, performs driving exhibitions for Filipino audience at the Toyota Gazoo Racing Festival at the Quirino Grandstand in Manila. Next to that, Project Protect School Children from Cybercrime. Parents urge, as classes open this month, global cybersecurity firm Kaspersky reminded Filipino parents to be wary of online dangers that their school-age internet-using children could be highly vulnerable to, especially as much learning is taking place nowadays in cyberspace. Okay. And last but not the least, a photo. Parang ano yun? Parang transformer or ano ba ito? Anyway, Gilas Final 12, a fighting combo. Boys play basketball in front of the Team Pilipinas mural at the tenement in Taguig City yesterday. The opening of 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup will be held at the Philippine Arena in Bocaue. It's interesting to note how the tenement area building in Taguig has become a focal point for the arts, particularly related to basketball. They are actually so talented there, so colorful, and one would think that by now, after several years, meron pa doon. I remember memorial for Kobe Bryant, that you would think someone in the arts area would have noticed and said, let's do something for those artistic kids, young people, and talents at the tenement. Okay, I hope meron pong gumawa niya. Now, I believe we will go for a quick break, and when we return, we will resume with our interview here on Agenda. Gab, take it away.
Remember President Bongbong Marcos' campaign promise of bringing down the price of rice to 20 pesos per kilo? Well, officials of the Department of Agriculture admitted this is highly unlikely in the next 2 years. During the budget hearing in the lower chamber, Agriculture Undersecretary Leocalio Sebastian said the price of rice will still depend on the market. Based on DA's monitoring, retail prices of local rice range from 41 pesos to 62 pesos. Meanwhile, the retail prices of imported commercial rice range from 46 pesos to 65 pesos. How can the DA further decrease the price of rice in the coming months? Let's discuss this on today's agenda.
Leonardo Montemayor is the chairman of the Federation of Free Farmers. Prior to this, he served as congressman for the ABA party list. Montemayor was also an agriculture secretary, serving during the term of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo.
Okay, are we ready, Gab? Before we bring in, ako, mukhang kakanta kami ni Sir. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program. Mukhang kakanta tayong dalawa.
Good morning, Cito. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. And ladies, gentlemen, this may be accidental that we're both wearing green, but perhaps it's also good to know that green represents agriculture. Now, Sir Leonie or Secretary, before we start our program, I was reminded of something that Bu Chanko, our business editor columnist in the Philippine Star, wrote on his Facebook, quoting a friend of his, Mr. Ermin Garcia, who posted on Facebook what he gathered regarding yung mga sinasabi ba ng mga DA at saka ng mga government officials. Sabi niya, Ermin posted this timeline from newspaper headlines to tell the story of inaction or confusion or both. June 16, PBBM said, we need to import rice. June 28, Department of Agriculture, Philippines has sufficient rice till third quarter of 2023. June 30, DA says Philippines needs to import more rice, sugar. July 24, Marcos warns agri-smugglers, hoarders, your days are numbered. July 29, Philippines must import rice as El Nino looms, may look to India. President Marcos, August 9, Philippine rice supply to last even after El Nino. August 12, Rice Industry Group says 300,000 metric tons of imported rice to arrive August of September. So clearly, the right hand does not know what the left hand is doing and vice versa. Ano ba ang basa ninyo sa estado? Because the NEDA, Secretary Balisacan said, kaya pa yan, but it's up to the agriculture sector. Tayo na naman ang tinira.
Ang masabi ko dyan, Cito, the situation is both confused and confusing. Kaya hindi nakapagtataka yung mga information tsaka advice na umaabot kay Presidente, kumbaga, very inconsistent eh. So, depende kung sino nagsasalita, paiba-iba yung sinasabi nila kasi ito, as you just cited.
Okay, now you have been a former Secretary of Agriculture during the time of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. You lead a respected group of advocates for Philippine agriculture. How has all this confusion affected our state of affairs? Is this simply rice? Sa bigas lang ba tayo nagkakala hilo-hilo, or is it a total picture of the confusion and confusing?
I think what is happening in rice is symptomatic of the situation that we have been, living with the past year or so. It started off with the sugar issue, sabi ng on one side, we have enough sugar. Sabi ng iba, kulang. And
Mhm.
then the guy who turned out to be correct, Yusek Sebastian, turned out being sacked. Although, of course, he has been reinstated. And
Yeah,
then we came to the problem of sibuyas, and then now we have the problem with rice.
Okay, now you saw in the video where he was quoted as saying that the price of rice will still be dependent on the market. The question is, what market is he talking about? Because it seems that the only determinant of price of rice is what the importers say.
That's correct. Actually, Cito, the problem really, I would say, really started with the passage of the Rice Tarification Law, RTL, in 2019.
Okay.
The heart of that RTL is that we will now have a policy of only rice importation, unlimited rice importation, and
Mm.
that will flood the rice market with imported rice, which was supposed to be cheaper. And then we will go back to a situation where from the high of 49 pesos per kilo rice during the crisis year of 2018, with that RTL in place, we will have a happy future for the consumers of anywhere from 25, 27, or at most 32 pesos per kilo rice. Nangyari po
Mhm.
ba yan? Hindi po eh. Actually, Sito, nung time ni Pangulong Noynoy Aquino, the average yearly importation of rice was 1 million tons a year.
Okay.
Pagpasok ni Presidente Duterte, the first 3 years of President Duterte, mga 2.5 million ang yearly importation natin, wala pa yung RTL. Nung
Mhm.
dumating po yung RTL sa 2019 until last year, 2022, at least 3 million tons of rice a year pumapasok. Last year, record 3.8 million tons. The Philippines became number 1 for a time, then now number 2 rice importer, leading rice importer in the world. So, but where is the price of rice? Unlimited rice noon by the private sector. Hindi naman bumaba. Tapos lalo na ngayon, unlimited rice pa rin ang policy, pero wala namang gustong umangkat. So now we're up to the levels of 55 and above for the price of well-milled rice. So apparently that policy has failed, Sito. Hindi tayo, hindi po nag-work itong policy na ito na only rice imports.
Okay, now the president himself has expressed an interest or support for restoring the purchasing power of the NFA. Sabi nga ni PBBM, dapat ibalik natin yung authority to purchase at para makatulong in situations where necessary. Now, what is your reading on that? Because may mga pumalag kagad eh.
Well, first of all, we have to amend the law kasi it's very clear in the RTL that the only legal power of the NFA now is to purchase enough palay from our local farmers to be able to maintain the so-called buffer stock to be used in the event of emergencies like typhoons and so on to assist calamity victims. Other than that, I think it is legally prohibited for NFA to, let's say, to import rice, and then also the NFA also cannot just sell rice at subsidized rates because that is no longer the function of NFA under the RTL. So kailan talaga amendahan mo na yung batas?
Okay, if you were to, kasi you're one of the first to express support and hope in PBBM. I remember interviewing you before the election, and you were optimistic about what President Bongbong Marcos could do for our sector. Now, if you were to be called on by the President and say, Kalyoni, pag-usapan nga na ito, can you be my consultant on this? What exactly would you do? How would you go about it? What are the things that need to be addressed? Kasi we're running around in circles. We're chasing our own tails, arguing, discussing rice importation, the legality, illegality, or vested interest. But we're not moving forward. What would you tell the president, Caglioni?
Siguro one of the first things that has to be done is to make sure that we have a reliable and timely information system in the agriculture sector. So, for example, itong issue ng ano ba talaga ang rice supply situation? I don't think people really have a good handle kasi sabi nga ng iba, we have enough rice. Tapos sabi naman ng iba naman, we need to import rice. So ano ba talaga ang kwan? Ano ba talaga ang data? How much rice do we really have? And if there is need for importation, the private sector already has unlimited power to import under the RTL. So does it mean that government has to be given some degree of power to do the actual importation?
But why do we not have that capability? Because nung bata-bata ako, I remember that everything could be checked. You just make a phone call, you just check a certain office. They had the data. What destroyed that system in the Philippines?
Essentially, the RTL itself dismantled the information gathering and monitoring apparatus of the government, principally being done before through the National Food Authority. Kasi dati in the times where on a limited basis, pinayagan ng NFA na umangkat ang private sector, una-una, kailangan lisensyado ka ng gobyerno. So, ibig sabihin, talagang nasa negosyo ka ng pamimili at pag-trading po ng bigas. Tinanggal po yun Now, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can import rice. Number two, yung requirement po ng NFA noon na merong regular reporting by the rice mills, the rice traders, and the licensed warehouse operators. Tinanggal din po yan ng RTL So nangangapa ang gobyerno po. I don't know if DA even and the NFA even have a regular way of checking on the inventories of our private rice millers and warehouse operators.
Are there no other government agencies? Because I remember, you have to forgive me, Caglioni, medyo hindi ako masyadong aral But I remember people talking about another agency that studies the agriculture sector, the production of every sector in the industry, units, etc. Kumbaga, parang COA ba ng agriculture? Hindi ko lang matandaan kung ano yung pangalan ng bureau na yun.
Siguro dati kasi meron yung tayong Bureau of Agricultural Statistics
Yun.
But it was directly under the DA. But later on, that thing was folded into the Philippine Statistics Authority for all types of data. So wala na po sa kamay po ng Department of Agriculture. And the question that we have been posing to the President himself, we have suggested to him to review the system of data collection and data reporting by the PSA. Kasi meron pong mga inconsistencies as to the inventory levels of the entire country with respect to rice.
Yeah.
And those types of information are crucial in making decisions with respect to importation, tariff levels, etc. for rice.
In fairness to the PSA, they don't have enough funding, they don't have enough manpower to gather all the data that covers everything that is sold, bought, traded, grown in the entire Philippines. I mean, sobrang laki ng assignment. But would you agree that it was a major mistake or blunder to put the data gathering of the Bureau of Agriculture Statistics under the PSA? Kasi parang binigay mo sa PSA yung budget planning ng yung pang araw-araw na gawain o budget ng agriculture.
I think so kasi wala nang ibang wala nang ibang way of checking the accuracy and the timeliness of data in the case of PSA. And
Which is
kulang sila sa tao.
Yeah.
And so on.
Which is why ngayon nagkakagulo rin sa mga planting seasons, volumes, etc. Because dati, sa Bureau of Agriculture Statistics, you know the trend in how much tomato, pechay, or vegetable is grown in Bontoc Mountain Province area. So hindi tayo nagtatako ng bawang, nagsusunog ng kung anong gulay dahil walang buyer.
Tama yun. At saka sana kung hindi mo na, kung let's say, okay, so PSA handles all the data gathering. Sana yung NFA, kung nakapagpatuloy sa kanilang monitoring and even inspection powers before Article 2 took effect, I think we could have handled the information gaps better under current conditions. Kasi nagkaroon din noon ng NFA even the power to open warehouses, to check reports about hoardings and so on. Even that was removed. So it's totally in the hands of the private sector. At sabi nila free market. Talagang naging free talaga ang basically importers and traders to do what they want.
Well, the free market policy pertains to trading, purchasing, exchange. But yung data gathering, that is inherently a mandatory function of the state. Hindi pwedeng hindi magkakalap ng impormasyon ang gobyerno dahil sila nga ang gumagawa ng mga programa. Ano yung pagbabasihan ng programa, correct?
That's true. But in addition to that basic function of through the PSA, dapat merong may mga stronger powers ang agencies. Well, in this case sana sa NFA to really double check if this data are correct. Di ba?
Okay.
Yun na, walan ng powers ang NFA to even require regular reports by the rice industry. Nawala po yun . So bakit hindi natin ibalik yon? So there will be a way for both the national government and the PSA to counter-check their data.
Okay, so going back to that question, what else would you tell the president? So you're obviously suggesting the NFA be allowed to gather data, inspect warehousing, rewrite the rice tariffication law, etc. What else would you strongly recommend to the president?
Yeah, well, as I said, review the assumptions under the RTL that the free market and the private sector will be the ones to ensure that we will be having enough rice at affordable prices to our consumers. So that's the most basic for me. Have that review, not necessarily to dismantle the whole law, but to make sure that these assumptions are correct, and then amend those provisions, like in the case of the NFA, restore certain powers. Isa rin Cito yung not directly on the RTL side. I think it's high time that we review the policy of devolution, especially with respect to our agricultural extension force.
Okay, you hit one of my pet peeves. Isa sa mga kinaasaran ko talaga. But let's go for a quick break, Kalyoni, and when we return, pag-usapan natin yan because I remember talking to a former cabinet member and he said, you know, when we devolved health, education, and agriculture, we basically demoted the Republic of the Philippines. We will be right back after a quick break here on Agenda.
In its latest report released this week, the Philippine Statistics Authority reported that rice inventory in the country has declined by 17.5% at the start of May. Stocks in households, commercial warehouses, and even that of the National Food Authority or NFA are all declining. In a statement, the group Samaang Industriya sa Agrikultura or SINAG is calling for the abolition of the NFA, claiming that the agency is just relying on imports to beef up stock, instead of using its funding to buy more rice from local farmers. Two senators also challenged the agency, saying that it can prove its worth by buying farmers' produce at higher prices. Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel said that if the NFA is indeed filling up its buffer stock with imported rice, then it has a lot of explaining to do. Senator Chis Escudero believes this is a chance for the agency to show that they are still able to effectively fulfill their mandate. Let's discuss that further on today's agenda.
Okay, with us is former Agriculture Secretary Leonardo Montemayor. Leonie, what's your reaction to that bit of news there that the stock of rice in most warehouses, the current stock is declining, and then Sinag and Chis Escudero and Coco Pimentel raising doubts over the continuation of NFA. Ikaw you're saying dapat suportahan ang NFA. Totoo ba yun yung sinasabing nag-i-import na lang ang NFA, hindi bumibili sa local?
I don't think so, Cito, no? Ang NFA kasi limitado to just buying local palay for their buffer stocking. I think yung nangyari sa recent case na pumunta si Administrator Bioco ng NFA sa India, it was really to explore or to sound off the Indian government authorities kung pwede nilang kumbaga tulungan ng Pilipinas dito sa pag-access ng bigas mula sa India. Because remember, India came out recently with a policy of not exporting non-basmati rice. And although we have very little rice imported from India, yung mga traditional buyers ng Indian rice, nagsitakbuhan po sa ibang sources, especially Vietnam, which supplies almost 90% of our rice requirements. So that was a factor kung bakit nagmahal yung presyo po ng bigas na inaangkat sa Vietnam. So yan po. But I also agree with the reminder that NFA should really strengthen its local palay procurement activities. Kasi meron nga silang talagang budget na 8.5 billion at least this year. I think very little of that has actually been spent kasi ayaw naman itaas ng NFA Council, which is the policy-making arm of the NFA, na i-adjust upwards yung kanilang buying price of 19 pesos per kilo. Kasi kung hindi po nila itaas yon o tinaas, hindi sila makapag-compete sa private buyers who are buying, at least early this year, they were buying at 22 or more pesos per kilo. So they have to adjust their procurement prices upwards.
That issue or that problem has been there even during the Duterte administration. Nagkakaroon ng parang intramurals doon sa NFA Council where they're fighting over, whether to raise or not to raise. And yun lagi yung angal ng mga NFA sa baba. Pinipilit nyo kaming bumili. You want us to buy local rice, but we cannot buy local rice because the local farmers won't sell the rice to us at the rice that the government has pegged, at the price that the government has pegged. Kumbaga, merong sabi nga nila, presyong ayaw pagbili. Dito naman sa NFA, presyong ayaw bumili.
Yeah, the NFA people are correct on that, Cito. Unfair naman sa kanila na the law requires them to, source their buffer stocks from local palay. And yet, effectively, hindi makabili. Kasi nga, pinipigilan po yung pagtaas po ng buying price nila. So, the rest, opo.
Sorry, Leonie, ano ba ang price difference? Para lang maintindihan ng mga viewers natin. What is the price that the NFA is allowed to buy palay what is the ongoing rate of palay pag mga traders ang bumibili?
Nung nakaraang anihan Sito, mga around yan, April of this year, ang bilihan po umabot po ng mga I think 22, in some cases even 25 pesos per kilo ng palay. Ang bili ng NFA 19, yung tinatawag na clean and dry pa. Yung 14% ang pagkatuyo po niyan, tapos malinis po, walang mga bato at iba pa. So no-brainer yan yung buyers na private, pumupunta pa sila sa farmers, doon bumili. Yung farmer, kung magbibenta po siya ng palay niya sa NFA, pupunta pa sa bodega ng NFA, kung minsan malayo, at wala po siya sasakyan. So, unless at the very least, mamatch man lamang sana ng NFA yung presyo ng private sector, talagang impossible task for them to maintain a healthy buffer stock.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, baka ma-shock po kayo, no? Kung mahilig kayo mag-gardening, mag-landscape, yung bentahan ng ipa, yung balat ng palay, rice husk as they say in English, bumebenta pa po yan from 70 to 100 pesos per sack. Yung palay, binibili ng NFA ng 19 per kilo. There are ilang kilo ba? 50 kilos to a sack. So medyo talagang mamumroblema nga naman yung NFA buyers bumili tapos wala pa silang panghakot. Yun ang kalaban mo dun. So but hasn't this issue been addressed? Kasi parang I don't know, are our government and politicians simply debating in the Senate and not going out in the field, Calyoni?
Tama kasi ito, matagal ng issue ito. It's year in and year out. And what happened this year actually, kumbaga perfect storm So last year ganun din ang recollection, mababa rin ang buffer stocks ng NFA, except that hindi po nangyari pa yung yung mga bans on Indian exports of rice, tapos biglang nagmahal po yung rice sa international market. Yun po. So, yan ang dahilan. Kumbaga nag-perfect storm the stars aligned in a bad way for us.
Okay, now, a lot of people are saying that agriculture recovery can only come from the ground up. Kasi kung national daw ang aasahan, wala na. It hasn't worked for so many years or decades that we should now push it from the ground up. May mga companies, groups. Kanina, you were about to talk about devolution. Are the local government units the problem and not the solution?
It's a mixed bag, Sito. In general talaga, I think the basic problem is yung mindset mismo ng mga local executives natin. If their heart, if their passion, and if their mind is in food security and agricultural production, they will make sure that enough resources are plowed into the agriculture and fisheries sector in the respective local government units. In kaso iba yung mindset ng maraming local chief executives, sad to say, nahuhuli talaga itong agricultural tsaka food security concerns. So kahit na meron dyan yung recent ruling ng Supreme Court, di ba, yung Mandanas ruling na nilakihan yung share ng LGUs sa di ba, yung tax collections po ng national government. Pa rin, iba rin ang priorities. In many cases, it's more on infrastructure. And then we have even problems like now, Sito, no? Merong halimbawa yung seed subsidy program ang DA. At saka, pero dinadaan po yung distribution ng seeds through the local government units. Di ba? Okay. Through the mayors and through the technicians. May mga narinig ko mga kwento na validated by some DA officials na kumisa naiipit o hindi lang umisan, in a number of cases naiipit po yung yung certified seeds, hindi agad nakakarating sa farmers natin.
Mhm.
In some cases, it's a politically, what do you call this, influence. Pinipili kung sino yung uunahin na magbibigyan po ng certified seeds. Na libre naman po yun.
Yung
Mula sa
botante lang muna nilang inuuna, huli na
Oo.
yung sa kalaban.
Ganon din, pati sa abono, pati fuel subsidy, may mga ganyang klaseng mga kwento eh.
Mhm.
So, ang DA naman, it's powerless kung tutuusin kasi the power now to deal with the farmers directly lies with the local authorities under the local government code. But
But we cannot also count on the congressmen and the members of the Senate who are in bed with the local governments kasi hindi nila madisiplina or mabago yung devolution law na yan because natatakot naman sila mawalan sila ng boto.
Oo, at saka ang kapangyarihan kasi talaga nasa LGU eh.
Mm.
Even the usage of their funds. The DA can only suggest, it can perhaps provide counterpart funding, but if the LGU does not want to fully support a particular program or project of the DA, wala talaga magagawa ang DA. So dapat talaga i-review yung devolution of technicians and their functions from the DA to LGU.
But isn't there parang a willingness on the part of LGUs kasi parang oy ba Kalyoni kung gusto ninyong asikasuhin yung mga magsasaka, mga backyard hog raiser, backyard poultry ay siya kayo nang umasikaso para makapokus kami sa urbanization because I think the problem as you pointed out is many mayors want to raise the status of development in their localities para tumaas din yung kanilang tax share and tax collection. In fact, the other day, I was talking to a landowner dyan sa Malbar, Batangas, and he pointed out, Cito, may 7 hectares ako dito. Eh, tamaan ka ba naman ng malas yung BIR dito o yung RD dito or something, yung sa real estate, kinaklasify kami as a commercial, industrial. Sabi, tumingin ka nga, puro bakang nakalagay dito sa lote namin, saka sa titulo namin, agriculture. Bakit kami titirahin ng industrial real estate tax? So, yun ang giging problema. So, napipilitan ang mga landowners na gumawa na lang ng mga village, yung mga housing, homes, etc.
Yeah, I think Cito, all the more, we have to have a more rational way, di ba, of making decisions on allocation of land uses.
Yeah, but can't you organize it was medyo naging trend dito in the past many administrations, parang may mga convention, may mga national meet, etc. Because until someone decides to do that, hindi talaga matatakel itong issue na ito. Tayo na lang Kalyoni at yung a few people who still love Philippine agriculture and farming that are fighting the fight. But can't you and your associates and everyone else organize a national forum to address all of these problems or wala, it's already in the hands of the politically rich?
Yeah, I think we have to do that, Cito. And I think not just once, but on a regular basis. But it would also be very helpful if, especially through the Congress, especially, I just cite the example of the land use proposed land use law.
Yeah.
Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit, or naintindihan ko actually, kung bakit hanggang ngayon, hindi man lamang magkaroon ng public hearing sa Senate Committee on Agriculture to tackle a proper land use law. Matagal na po yan na every administration, I think since Pinoy, then Duterte, and now si Pangulong Bongbong, sinicertify na priority bill yung land use bill.
Hindi ba, can't you take that to the Supreme Court? Kasi inuupuan ka mo kung sino man yung mamuno na upuan or hindi na pa-prioritize. Now, unless we have a balance of power, have you considered taking this thing to the Supreme Court? Kasi yung Mandanas Law, that would not have happened if somebody didn't take it to the Supreme Court. Yung sa, ano ba yun, sa environment. Di ba? May batas yung Supreme Court na
Rito Bamparo.
yun, Rito Vamparo. Can the agriculture sector take this matter to the Supreme Court para mapilitan yung mga nasa Senado na gumalaw?
Palagay ko baka hindi pwede Sito kasi may separation of powers eh. So
Yeah, I know. But if the
power to set the agenda for deliberations on bills lies with the House and the Senate.
yeah, but if there is a clear failure to perform its duty, or in fact, some might even say malice. Would you consider or napag-aralan yun ba o hindi pa naman?
Hindi pa naman, but maybe it's worthwhile exploring Sito to find a way of at least shall we say influencing our
Yes.
lawmakers to give a proper due course. Walang naman, all we're asking is at least mag-conduct ng hearings, di ba?
Oh,
Bakit?
pareho na tayo nagtitina ng buhok baka mamaya hindi na natin makitang yung hearing na yan in our lifetime. And I think it's you have more of a legal personality than I do. Although I would be more than happy to sign that petition, because I think the only time Senate will act is when they see that the people are fed up and will take matters to the other authorities.
Yes, I agree with that. So maybe we can work along the lines of having at least a national forum to tackle these critical issues, and then magkaroon din ng at least some kind of pressure action to force our authorities to act.
Siguro mapunta mo na rin yung dati mong bossing, si PGMA, or if not, then let's go to lawyers who are patriotic, who would consider studying. Pwede bang itakil ito ng Supreme Court? Anyway, Leonie, thank you very much for your time this morning. I am just trying to educate our kababayans and of course, trying to give you space in media so that people don't forget that what they eat comes from the back of farmers, hard work of farmers, and of course, dedication on the part of people like you, Sir Leonie.
Yeah, we appreciate it very much, Sito. Maraming salamat.
Okay, God bless you and God bless the thousands, if not millions of farmers you speak on behalf of, and may you have a long life. Magkita tayo sa Supreme Court, Leonie.
Sige po.
Okay, that's Leonardo Montemayor, Leonie, former Secretary of Agriculture. And let's now go to our blessing for this week from Jonathan Oates, if I'm not mistaken. Oatman, Jonathan Oatman. Remember this when you are going through a lot of difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. When upon life's billows you are tempest-tossed, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord hath done. Yun po, it is always a good thing to do when you're feeling down, you feel like giving up. Remember, many things that you have are things you wished for before. Many things that have happened are answered prayers. May God answer all your prayers. And please include Team Agenda in your prayers. God bless all of you. Please keep it here on One News.